Hey, my beautiful souls. Welcome to the Spatial Sarah podcast. I am on a mission to bring back the lost art of meaningful conversations that touches our heart and expand our perspectives. My intention is to create a space where you feel seen, heard, and loved. Each episode is crafted to hold that space, allowing you to open up and explore thoughts and ideas in a safe environment. So, grab your imaginary marshmallows, find a cozy spot under the sky full of stars, and join me in these campfire-worthy conversations as I take you on a journey to places you've never been and spark conversations you've never had before. Let's go. Hello, Tere, tulay mas. Grete Merlyn. Welcome to the Spatial Sarah podcast. Greta, I'm so happy that you're here today, joining me on today's episode, and I look forward to having this conversation with you. So, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. It's the most warmest welcome ever in my own language.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I was so excited when I saw that you said you are an Estonian. I was so excited because I told you that I was in Estonia last year, and the place is just so beautiful. The people there, I know you guys are really quiet by nature. You keep to yourselves and all, but there's some sort of warmth feeling I felt being there. And I think what made me fell in love so much with Estonia is that I was able to attend social dancing. So we're doing bachata, salsa, like you just go to this random restaurants that they would just like open floor, just dance by the park, open space. So it's really nice. I think that's what I really loved about Estonia. So this happened in Tallinn itself, in Old Town, where people, there was this particular restaurant where people would just social dance. It is so nice. And it's during the summer. So until 10, 11, we were dancing and it was still so bright. Yeah. So that's why I was so
Wow,
excited.
I've never had this experience actually. Where was this?
This was in Old Town itself, Tallinn Old Town. And then there was another place by the beach. I can't recall the name. Also, people bring in their music, their speakers, and then there's a platform. People just dance. And it's just so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about Estonia just warms my heart. I love my mother country so much. Yeah, so thank you.
You're welcome. So, Greta, you are a life coach for alignment with self, nature, and business. So, share with us, what do you do?
Yeah, I am a life coach. I'm taking all my experience from my self journey, self-discovery, about self-awareness, because I had to do the journey all by myself in my adulthood. I didn't have the possibility to learn lots as a kid. But yeah, everything can be done. So eventually, actually, I started human design readings before being a life coach.
Okay.
And there's a strange story to it. Well, I like entrepreneurship. So I'm having projects going and coming. And with one project, I got selected to The Break, it's called. And it's an entrepreneurship incubator for feminine activities. So I got together with awesome ladies with awesome projects. And there I discovered human design. And I got totally sucked in the rabbit hole of it. And as I learned, started to give my own first human design readings for others, I eventually understood that I needed something to actually also guide people or ask the right questions. I needed tools to actually have that interaction and help people out with their problems or whatever could be coming out from the reading, because it can get very personal. And I also understood that it's a fantastic tool to do shadow work and everything like that. So there are obviously some tools needed to help people on that level. And eventually, as I pursued my life coach certificate, I also started doing my first life coaching sessions, and everything got so excited, it kind of felt like breathing. So I finally understood that, yes, this is what I'm here to do. This is my thing. And yeah, I'm just loving it. About nature, alignment with self and business, because well, personally, I'm a zero waster. On my self-discovery journey, I also discovered that we all have impact on nature. So knowing that versus understanding, really understanding, feeling it in your bones is completely different. So I got very passionate about impact, getting aligned with nature, because we are nature, actually. Mother Nature gave us, not we. We are not the people who made nature. It's the other way around. So yeah, also I feel that nature, like reconnecting to nature, can be one way of discovering ourselves also. There are so many people in this world just hustling, doing what others maybe tell them to do, not even knowing who they are, what they like, what do they want in life. So I feel that this is something very important to kind of help facilitate.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. For those who are listening and do not know what human design is, could you just like briefly tell what is human design?
Yeah, absolutely. Human design is a system of systems. So basically, they took I Ching, 3 of Life, chakra system, astrology. They took it all together and put it in one system called human design. So based on your birth time, date, location, to have like the exact time, you get this chart calculated, this chart. There are lots of ways to calculate it online for free. So everyone can discover what their human design is, but it does give lots of information about how we function, how our energy functions, the part we call aura, how that functions, how people feel us, and what may be the less resistant way of living life. Or in other words, what do we love to do? What could be more aligned with ourselves? And just to have confirmations maybe about some characteristics we already know we have. And just sometimes having that confirmation gives us that confidence and power. Yes, this is how I should work, even if others don't function that way. This is how I function. I've always known that. And now that I can actually see it, I feel that, yes, I can just be like that.
Cool. I'm excited to explore more about human design. We're sort of going to unpack. You have my human design report. We're sort of going to unpack that later. So I'm excited for that to kind of find out a little bit more because I am a little bit of a skeptic, I told you, when it comes to human design. So I'm excited to learn more about that later on. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Skeptic is even better.
I'm curious, like I'm a skeptic, and yet I'm curious and open to know, what's in store and like how can it help me? Because I believe like every tool and resources that is available out there, somehow in a way, if we are able to apply it, it will be beneficial to us as well. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
So, Grete, I just want to talk about you a little bit more. You've mentioned that growing up, you were in a narcissistic environment. What was it like growing up in a narcissistic environment? And if you don't mind sharing, like what happened actually?
Yeah, well, I discovered that I was in a narcissistic environment some years ago. So I had no idea. As kids, we just are born in a place, in an environment, and everything we see, we think it's normal, and we have no idea. But afterwards, well, I first discovered it when I started my own business and felt like something is off. I was struggling a lot. And the first sign was me gaining my first 10K in my own business open. So I was so happy because my family hasn't actually had much. We were always kind of struggling on survival. So it was normal that, well, okay, first of all, I've been grown by a single mom and my grandma, basically. I do have dad, but they broke up when I was 3, so it's different. So my mom always worked to, have food on the table and so on. And on summers, I was always with my grandma. So I had my first 10K. First thing I wanted to do, absolutely to share with my mom and grandma that I had, our family has the first person who actually managed to maintain money.
Yeah.
And as I did that, the reaction was strange. Because it was like I had to give it away. It wasn't like I managed to achieve something, but it was more like I achieved it with my own forces to them. And yeah, first I didn't realize that that was the thing. So I just felt sad, off, didn't understand what's going on, felt that something's off. And 1 year after, I had zero. So basically, unconsciously, I had spent everything to not give out nothing. But not in a way that it didn't feel so egoistic, like I just want to have it, I don't want to give nothing to no one. It felt more like I need to protect myself from this. It's something that I don't want to do or want to have in my life. And so this was the first kind of a red flag I felt about the environment I was grown in.
Did anyone make you feel that way? Like your grandma and your mom, you said you felt like some sort of like was there like a rejection or something from them? Because the reaction they gave when you made your first 10K, it was something was like off, right?
Yeah, something was off, because the first question was like not even a question. It was like they expected me to give it just like that day, give it all, like it's ours. And it was so strange, because no one has ever had that opportunity in our or in our family. But thinking about it right now, I have made peace with the fact that it's not anyone's fault. Narcissism isn't anyone's fault. There are no bad guys, or it's about self-love, lack of self-love, and sometimes environment. Estonia was one of the countries that was under Soviet Russian occupation. And that times where my mom grew up in that environment also. But the thing comes more of from my grandma, and I think also previous generations, because it's passed usually, it passes from mom to kid.
Yeah.
And there were times where you couldn't have anything. Like literally, if you had money, you could have been in trouble. They could have arrested you. You could have had a punishment because you had something. So you had to hide things away, or when you were in a bad situation, you had to put the face on, you had to just act differently, hide things and lie and all that kind of it almost feels like it's a stamp for grading narcissists.
Right. But is it like that? Was this just like in your family when you're growing up, or the environment, like is the culture of the country it's like that at that point of time?
At some level, well, in my head, at some level, it's very cultural. But then again, I do know lots of Estonians who are just genuine and very good, warm people. So I guess it's somewhere in the middle.
Right. Yeah, because I think like even as adults when we grow up, right? Like we are always shaped by our environment, right? And because we are shaped by our environment, we think that, okay, so this is the rules of the world, this is how it is everywhere, until we have probably moved away from our country or moved places. Then we find a different group of people, and then we'll be like, how come I did not know about this, like this kind of this side of the world. And then you realize that, okay, so culturally people do change according to environment, and it's just different. So I think it makes sense like what you say. So for you at that point of time, it feels like this is how the world is until you have moved out and moved away.
Yeah, but also I started to do that kind of a work on forgiveness. So for myself to, not have that anger and resentment. thanks to one of my girlfriends who actually gifted me a book about boundaries and started to send me.
What's the title of the book? So it could be useful for someone who's listening.
It's Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Tawwab.
Okay, I'll put it in the link below the podcast.
Yeah, and then she also started to send me videos on Facebook and YouTube, especially the Red Table Talk and videos of Dr. Ramani. So there I understood a lot about my family, and also reflecting back, because there was this time when I was constantly said that I'm the mom of my mom, while I was like 6 maybe. So the roles were completely opposite. I was taking care. I was saying what's healthy for you, what's not. Not the other way around. So that was one of the things I was like, okay, how this happened, but I can't actually remember. Like I can't pinpoint the moment. I guess it's just how you grow up in an environment. Or I also started to notice how I didn't feel safe around my grandma. That was something I also discovered more as an adult and already knowing the situation. I went there and working online, I tried to concentrate on my work on my laptop in the kitchen, and I was not able to concentrate. I was literally, my body was in an alert mode. It was constant controlling myself and just being alert on every situation that's happening around me. So I didn't feel fundamentally safe.
Why did you felt that way? Was it unconscious, or there was just something troubling you?
It was unconscious. And thinking back, I've almost always had this feeling when I was home. I was constantly in an alert mode on understanding what's going on right now. How do I have to adapt myself in a situation? Because in my childhood, there have been situations where I didn't actually do much. I just was myself, was doing, I don't know. Okay, for example, once I just got abused because, like home violence, because they didn't find the mascara. It was about them. So everything about them. If they are not happy, everyone can't be happy around them. If they are not valued, or if they are not put on the pedestal, if they're not the number one, then no one can be. Or also using my stories. My grandma is a hairdresser. So hairdressers are like people everyone talk to when they go there. They're like, barmen and psychologists. So she used my stories to make her feel, like, not feel good, but look good.
Like what kind of stories?
Also invented ones, like taking the reality and augmenting them. For example, she started a business. Look how good my grandchild is. Look how good I am at growing up my children. And when you said afterwards, maybe, business has its ups and downs. It's normal. When you say that, okay, I'm in a critical situation right now, it's not so good. The first thing is you should close it. You're not capable of doing it. It's like not having any empathy of. As a kid, I also loved dancing. I did hip hop and other things. I've tried lots of things. And I didn't go to a competition, hip hop competition, because at some point I just showed my capacities. I don't know, I was like 10, maybe even smaller. So a little kid, showing capacities. Yeah, I was not the best dancer. You see 5-year-olds being like super hip hop dancers on YouTube. But yeah, just normal kid going on a hip hop competition. And they took me out of the hip hop because they didn't see that I was good enough.
Your mom and your grandma.
My mom, yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, if I drew something that wasn't exceptional, it was not good enough. So there was also always this theme of not being good enough for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And did that impact you as well? Like how you felt towards yourself?
I had no idea I had
Yeah.
low self-esteem until I started to work on myself. I was like, no, I have all the self-esteem in the world.
Yeah.
But actually, when I looked at the behavior I had, also in my business, starting my business, having the trouble on giving value to what I was getting, why did I just underprice myself? Because I didn't feel of value. I didn't feel that self-esteem. I didn't feel that I am capable of doing great things.
Mm.
So yeah, it did impact me very in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to touch on that point because I think many women, especially women entrepreneurs these days, and especially in the online world, right? Um, and myself included as well. Um, I'm someone who's very knowledgeable because of the amount of work I've put in. Like I've been working on myself like for 20 over years, like 20 over years. Um, and the imposter syndrome in me, oh my God, it's just so, so strong. And I hold myself back from sharing knowledge and sharing value. I even struggle with showing up in my own business. And it's so true when you said that it's so subtle that you can't even identify it because when people talk to you, they think you're so confident. You are, you just got it all figured out, right? But even for me, I feel like, I don't have things figured out, or I feel like I don't know enough because there's constantly this voice in my head saying like, you are not good enough. And I think it's so important, right? So like for you, how did that show up in your business? Like what kind of behaviors were you showing in your business that you felt like you are not showing up for yourself?
Well, there is always this imposter syndrome, as you said, afraid of showing up, as you said. Even talking up, taking position for myself in a situation where a client wanted to pay less or have more of you for the same price. So I was digital designer at that time, doing websites and design for applications. And I worked in digital environment with developers, with marketers, and with direct clients. So giving a price for my hourly work led me eventually to a burnout because I just didn't ask enough to pay my bills. And you need to have that Excel file in place to understand eventually how much is your minimum.
Yeah.
Also, when other marketers or communication agencies, because I collaborated with several communication agencies who resold my services, when they told me something about my pricing or their expectations about how much energy I should put in for that price, I took their words as it was golden. So I literally thought that everything others say is very right for me, that others get to decide who I am and how I should work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think many people, especially in women, they feel that way. Eh, like for example, if someone says like, or they even tell you how you should be, we take it too hard because we feel like, okay, I need to be this way so that people will like me, so that people will come to me, so that, and at the end of the day, when you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, it just comes to self-esteem and self-worth and the worthiness that we actually don't feel. And we feel validated when someone tells us something and then we listen. So then it's like validating ourselves, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
there's a word for it, people pleasing.
Yes, guilty of that. So guilty of that. I used to be like that, but in a very subtle way. People think that I'm someone who just very straightforward. I say what I want to say, but in fact, I'm actually very particular when I talk, when I say things, um, because I don't want to hurt the other party. So yes, people pleasing. It's so even if people is doing wrong, I would just keep quiet. Like those days. Like now, if I know that it's against my integrity, I would just say no. Yeah. It's
Mm.
and it becomes easier because you filter out people who don't align with your values and your like people who don't align with your own values and who you are, then you just filter out people, and that's okay because obviously you can't please the 8 billion people in this world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. On that point, it was very pleasant for me to discover that when I raised my prices, at that time, I didn't actually do the self-work yet.
Yeah.
But when I raised my prices, I filtered out most of the people who were like asking ridiculous things on ridiculous prices.
Yeah.
And I started to have more people that respected my craft around me.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
started to have opportunities to actually see other professionals and to interact with them and to actually see, like, objectively, how good am I respect to what they do, how they work. So yeah, but also, this kind of a thing of comparison of yourself towards others. That's also, why should we do that? We are all so unique and wonderful.
Yeah.
Why should we be like someone else?
Yeah, yeah. And I think
Mm.
that comes because humans being humans, right? We all thrive in tribes. Even back to our ancestors' time, caveman time, we all thrive in tribes. So I think it's so normal for people wanting to be like others because they feel like if I am not like someone else, if then I will not be accepted, I will not fit in. So that's why people try to be someone else, but the truth is just be yourself, and the right people, you will attract the right people, you will align with the right kind of people, right? Because at the end of the day, I think as human beings, all we want is to be loved. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, if we act like someone else, we are not bringing ourselves to the table. We are literally taking away value we could give to others. So
Exactly.
we are not giving any more value. There are already other people we are trying to, imitate. So they're
Yeah.
already there. We don't need 5 of them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. Like even our fingerprints, it's not the same, right? Everyone has
Yeah.
different fingerprints. So I truly believe about being authentic and just being yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives the most value. We were talking about adapting ourselves and our communication to the environment to be accepted. And I got this light bulb moment where actually there is a line between narcissism and not also in there. Because when I was in my teenager years, I know that I used words to manipulate. So there is this thing that try to adapt to people to be accepted, but there's also another side of it, which can be manipulation. So to literally do and smile and tell the words other wants to hear just to have your needs met. So it's manipulating others, and that's something I learned from somewhere. I
Right.
totally stopped when I understood that that's wrong. That's not okay. Fortunately, before self-discovery journey, but yeah, there's also a difference there.
Right. But how would you then draw the line between pleasing people in order to be accepted and pleasing people in the narcissistic way? Because I believe like narcissism is more like um you just like although you're trying to please, but you also kind of guilt trip people because at the end of the day, you're making another person feel bad about themselves. So how do you draw the line between that wanting to be accepted, pleasing people, and then manipulation?
Yeah, that's exactly the line. So making others feeling bad,
Right.
making others feeling guilty if they don't give you what you need, if they don't give you what you're looking for, at the end of the day, it's just something that fills up the void you have inside that should be filled up with self-love.
Right. Right. Have you read this book? I'm like a big advocate for this book. Since I found about it, it's my super favorite author. This book called "Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It." Have you read that book
No,
before?
I haven't. I'm
Yeah,
totally writing this down.
yeah, you should. "Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It" by Kamal Ravikant, and he he just breaks it down into practical tools. And I think why I really resonated with this book is because the expanded version, yes, the old version and the expanded version. So get the expanded version, the expanded version, he talks about the lessons, which is the third chapter. And he walks through exactly what he went through and how he came out of it. And I think if I can say one thing that I've learned from his book is that I'm actually just human being. I used to be so hard on myself, like really, really so hard on myself. Like people don't know the amount of shit things that I say to myself in my head. Like so many, like it's just bad. And I don't even talk like that to people. Like my friends and family, they think I'm very optimistic. I'm such a positive person. I'm always, if someone has a problem, they will always come to me for clarity, for advice. And they always say I give the best advices. But the amount of things I was telling myself in my head, oh my God, when I read his book, I was like, I am just a human being. That's it. We all go through that. And I think that really helped me. Like, I stopped being hard on myself. I stopped, I just stopped. Yeah. So, yeah, you read that book. It's such a great book. Love yourself like your life depends on it. That's such a wonderful. Yeah. And a fast read because he writes it simple words and it's just so easy to understand and digest. So it's such a good read. Yeah. I've read it like 4 or 5 times. It's like my Bible. I still read it. Yeah.
Then I totally have to read it. Actually, while you were talking about it, I just during our conversation, I'm getting light bulbs around the narcissistic environment you're asking me about. Also, the characteristic of always smiling, never allowing yourself to have a bad day. You know, always being that doll on the couch that always smiles and is always positive and just holding everything else back.
Yeah.
That's also one of the things that unfortunately I got. But yeah, now I have made peace with feelings and also learning to identify them because I literally didn't know how to identify my feelings. So yeah, it's
like when you said feelings, what kind of feelings? Like bad emotions or?
Yeah, bad emotions. So yeah, I know what's excitement, I know what's happiness, I know what's enthusiasm, but if you go around sadness, so I just felt bad and I didn't know actually what it was. So I was crying, but I didn't know if I was angry, if I was sad, if I was frustrated, what was the thing? I had no idea. So that was something I had to learn in adulthood.
So how did you find out then the sub feeling of it? Like if you are frustrated or if you're angry, how did you find out that? I'm curious because sometimes I feel like even last week, I was just crying for nothing. I was so upset for nothing. And I was just crying and crying. And you know what? I actually took a video of myself crying because I want to show people, but I did not post it. For me, it's not the right time to post it. But when the time comes, I will post and tell people that it's okay to cry. Although I didn't know what it was. I'm not sure if it was the retrograde that is going on at the moment, Mercury retrograde. If you're aware of the planets and the moons, I'm not sure if it was that or is it the time of the month. I have no idea, but I was just crying. So, like for you, how did you find out like what specific feeling it was?
In this case, human design helped me a bit. I'm an emotional manifesting generator in human design, which means that I generate emotions, but it's unconscious in me. So I literally don't pinpoint my emotions, but others feel it very well. My companion is almost totally blank on his emotional center, and he's very empathic. He feels the emotions of people around him.
But people don't feel his.
But people don't feel his.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So actually, non-emotional beings doesn't mean that they don't have emotions. It just means that they don't have emotional swings, like emotional waves go up and down. It's, they don't have that chemical thing. They have the opportunity to have ease, emotional stillness and ease.
Yeah.
But they amplify the people around them. So sometimes the feelings they feel aren't even their own emotions. And he's very aware of that. He's very self-aware in general. I've never known anyone who's self-aware, just like naturally.
Yeah.
And he just tells me what's wrong, what's up. So I used his reflection of my emotions to learn what's going on and what are the emotions about. That's one of the ways. Other way, I started to reconnect and understand what's what, was to just observe what's going on, what happened. Did I just wake up and start crying? That's usually not my case. There is always a reason because I'm a very optimistic, not optimistic, but peaceful and zen kind of a happy person. So if something makes me cry, there is always a reason behind that. So yeah, just starting to analyze and observe. There's no quick fix.
Yeah, I totally agree on the observe part. When we are able to detach ourselves from whatever's going on and really observe, and sometimes you just got to sit with that feeling and let it just go, because the more you try to push it away. So like for you, you learned about human design and that's how you have learned more about yourself. For me, I've learned about Enneagram. I'm not sure if you heard of Enneagram. So for
Yeah, I
me,
have, but I haven't
yeah,
learned it.
so I'm really passionate about Enneagram. So in the Enneagram world, I have a type 7 personality. So type 7 are people who are optimistic. They're called the enthusiasts. So so for someone like me, as a type 7, having the type 7 personality, we tend to unconsciously push away negative emotions. So instead of dealing with it, we would actually escape. We will run away. We will try to find the next best thing to do. So we're always about finding like, okay, how can I make life exciting? Like it's always running away. I never knew I had that in me until I started learning more about myself. And I even use that even like on a day-to-day basis. If I am nitpicking, if I am feeling anxious and agitated, I know that I'm actually stressful. So then I sit with it and ask myself, so what's causing this stress? What is happening in my body? So I've also learned to sit with my emotions and also be more in tune with my body. So just being present and having, feeling the sensations in my body and what is it telling. And it's so true when you said the observation, because when you start observing, you will start having answers come to you just like that. Like you would just have whispers in your ear or, your head at the back. Like what is your problem? So I totally agree about that observation part you mentioned.
Yeah, it helps you reconnect with your
Yeah.
intuition, with your gut feeling, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you also do a lot of intuition work as well, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I use human design a lot to help people connect with their intuition and just to learn how to listen to their body.
Right.
But I guess it depends on a person.
Right.
Not everyone is okay with human design, in a sense of not everyone believes it or accepts it, is ready to listen to a human design reading. So also in life coaching, just asking the right questions to help people reconnect with themselves, to just turn the focus from asking or finding the decision-making person from outside and to just bring it inside, to refine the place where you have the right answers inside yourself, not just looking for them around the world.
Yeah. Do you usually have like when it comes when you're coaching and even like during your human design sessions, like do you intuitively like have intuitions to ask different questions for different people? Does it come to you that way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not maybe intuition. In coaching, actually, usually the client already tells you everything.
Yeah.
They already know what's going on, but they just can't they can't pinpoint it, or they don't find clarity.
Yeah.
So while they are talking, you can see it and you can just reflect it back to them to help them find it, because it's not a consultation. So I'm not bringing anything new to the table.
Yeah.
That with human design, I'm bringing lots of new stuff to on the table, but with coaching, it's just all about them.
Yeah.
It's not any of my opinions or any of my inputs there. It's just reflecting back what they have already said and asking the right questions. Kind of, I don't know if it comes from intuition, but it just comes from somewhere.
Have you always had have you always been intuitive, or is something that you have trained yourself, like for yourself? Or is it something that you trained yourself to be intuitive?
I've always known things. Like if something is going to happen, that's like feels obvious to me. But I've noticed that for others, it's not so obvious. So I guess I've always had that, not intuition, but knowing. So just be sure of, yes, this is obviously going to happen, or this is obviously the case.
Yeah.
So an intuition telling me this is the right thing or this is the wrong thing, or not even a gut feeling, but just as it's already there. How to explain it. It also, I'm actually recently almost testing it out, because I've noticed that I've always felt the trends before they're coming. And I'm just, okay, yeah, this is this thing. So I'm writing it down on my journal to find it out if a year from now or 2 or whatever, it's going to happen. It usually, strangely enough, it is. Also, I started zero waste journey and all about sustainability and removing plastic and finding alternatives and all that stuff before it was a thing. So it's always been this kind of a knowing and anticipating, I guess.
Right.
But
I think as human beings, we all have intuition and gut feeling, like you said, right? But many people don't listen because it's also something that you need to train yourself, right? There are many times where something tells us not to do it, and then we went to do it, and then when something bad happens, we'll be like, oh shit, I had the gut feeling that this was not right, right? So we all have that gut feeling, but many people do not use them to their advantage.
Yeah, don't we tell ourselves lots of bad things when that happens?
Yeah, I know. Like, I think for me, the time when I really started listening to my intuition, was just a year ago when I was in Estonia as well. So when I went to Estonia, I bought a one-way ticket because the ticket price was so expensive. So I bought a one-way ticket. I was supposed to only go there for 4 weeks. I was attending Mind Valley University in Tallinn. So it was only a 4 weeks thing. I was only supposed to be there for 4 weeks. And so the flight tickets were way too expensive. And then when I was meditating on my first week there, when I was meditating, I just told myself, hey, come on, universe, you got to manifest my flight ticket back because it's really expensive. Like, I think it was close to $2,000 for one-way ticket for me to come back. And then on the third day, after breath work and all that, when I was meditating again, I literally had an intuition, a voice that tell me, don't go back, stay back. So I was like, oh shit. So what happened was I called my mom. I told her that, I've traveled halfway across the globe. Something is telling me to stay back here and not come back home. I'm not ready to come back home. Also because I just lost my dad. So I'm not sure if it's like the grieving process for me. 2 weeks before leaving to Estonia, my dad passed away. So I'm not sure, is it the grieving process or whatever? I really don't know. But I think the universe didn't want me to come back. I ended up staying for 4 months. I went back to UK to my best friend's place. And I ended up staying back for 4 months instead of 4 weeks. And then when I came back, I was a totally different person. And I was so glad that I didn't had I didn't buy a two-way ticket. I was so glad I only bought a one-way ticket. And so I think when we listen to our intuition, it really guides us to the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to maybe starting to observe when the moment becomes where you're like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. I knew it was that way. And just from there, without blaming ourselves, without any of that, just allowing ourselves to make mistakes. It's okay.
Yeah.
None of us are perfect, and that is what makes us perfect. And then just to start to take a step back. When you have the intuition, trying to pinpoint the moment when you have the intuition, and just to start to listen to it. It's also related to self-trust, to trust yourself.
Right.
To learn to have a healthy relationship with yourself. So starting to listen to the intuition on the place. Maybe it will take a week, maybe it will take a year, maybe it will take 10 years to finally pinpoint the moment when you do feel the intuition.
Yeah.
And then just try it, listen to it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense maybe, but as I said, just to listen to it, see how it goes, trusting in yourself. So
and I think it's different for different people because I'm not sure of the terms, but they have like clairvoyant, clairsentient, like people who get downloads through images, people who get downloads as voices. I usually get as voices, like something would just whisper in my ear. It's just probably it's my head talking. I'm not sure. So some people they get senses, they get the gut feeling. And I think you can also use different techniques, different modalities. I know people ask questions and they use their fingers, and they kind of use their fingers, and if it breaks off, that means it's a bad energy. Don't go for it. Some people they stand, so they use their body. They stand, and then they will ask question. If it's a yes, the body moves forward. If it's a no, the body moves backward. So there's so many modalities people actually use. Yeah. What is it like for you? Do you feel, or do you hear, or do you see things for your intuition?
Well, the first attempt to reconnect with my intuition was actually with the pendulum.
Ah,
Because, yeah, and it's also, I guess, the pendulum and also bending your body and that kind of a yes, no, it's the same thing on a different aspect. So you become the pendulum versus you have a
yeah,
pendulum.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I do believe, like, there's no scientific evidence behind this. And at some level, I'm also a skeptic. But I do believe that it's always the reconnection to our own gut feeling. Just we are looking for it from the outside. So we're looking for it from the pendulum. We're looking for it from our body moving. It might look like it's inside us, but we are not listening to our body. We are observing what it's doing in the outside world. Or I've never seen people with their fingers.
No?
It's very
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, there are different ways. I've also known some Reiki masters. So curious, obviously, I'm asking them all the questions about how do they do this? How do they have the intuition? How do you know? Because some of them don't even touch you, you know. And some have images, some have the voice, as you said, some just have the knowing. They're exactly, we're all different. Like we just have to discover our own our own way. I do think that here also human design helps because approximately 70% of the population, according to human design, has the gut feeling. So the yes and no gut feeling. 30% doesn't. It's a large portion. People could think that something is wrong with them if they don't. But then there's also this other way, which you said is all about hearing that whisper, which comes from the spleen center. So it's the how do you call it, kind of a basic, not basic, but ancestral survival voice. It's the intuition, pure intuition power that's just coming and whispering in your ear. They say that it's something that comes just once and you have to listen to it, but I guess that also depends on a person. While the gut is like always there, you just ask, do I like these flowers, or whatever the question is, just a yes, no, binary question, and you can feel what your body says. Is it doing nothing? Is it feeling like contraction, or is it feeling this kind of a
Expensive.
feeling of expansion and enthusiasm? So enthusiasm is yes, while contraction is hell no. While just being neutral is, or it's not the right time for whatever it is, or it's just no, not feeling anything about it.
Yeah.
So I guess also human design can help on this part.
Yeah. I think the intuition, when we say, right, it's the thing about also intuition is that it's not loud. It's very subtle. Like it just comes one time and then it goes off. So if you are not aware, if you don't pay attention, if your mind is always cluttered, if your mind is always so busy, worrying about the future or the past, becoming anxious of the future, or worrying about the past, then you will miss that when it comes. Yeah. So agree with it.
Yeah, sometimes we listen to our mind,
Yeah.
trying to be logical, and just
Yeah.
we don't listen to
Makes
anything else.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. So how did you learn to trust yourself more?
Well, one was actually reconnecting to my gut feeling, but then there is also another technique I used, which is every time I feel that something is not okay, I need to do something about it, I just do it. For example, I don't know, walking on the street and there's garbage on the floor. Planet is everyone's, and I feel that I have to do something. So when there are lots of people, I tend to not do anything. Just, okay, it's there. Someone will do this. It's a natural tribe, tribe behavior in human beings. But just picking it up and putting it in the trash. It's something like I've done the thing that I feel was right to do. And so I gave trust to my own feeling. That was it's easy and it's hard at the same time, but that helped me so much in gaining self-trust. Or also just when I see hear someone out of the coaching context, and just know that they need to hear this. Sometimes I could just say nothing because people are not ready to be helped if they don't ask for help. So I tended to just shut it down, because I didn't want to have an opposite reaction or whatever. Just it's a matter of control, thinking that other people is also in our control, which is not. So I didn't not to say it, but now I do say it because I know that they need to hear it. Maybe they don't listen right now, but maybe they will remember it when they need it. Because it has happened to me also. I remember phrases people have told me a long time ago, and I didn't understand it at that time. But right now, it's like when something happens, it's, oh yeah, that's right. That's what they were trying to tell me. So it's valuable for us to just show up and do what we feel that is right. And at the same time, while we are giving value to others or planet Earth, whatever, we are also gaining self-trust, which is very important, especially if you want to do business.
Yeah, I think the more we do stuff, the more we kind of get clarity. The more like even just now when you were mentioning like there's a garbage you want to pick up or you don't want to pick up, and then when you don't pick up you feel like because it's not who you are, right? Sometimes I feel like that, like sometimes I'm so tempted to do something like to help out when I see someone need something, and then I will hold myself back because what if I'm being judged?
Yeah.
What if people think I'm weird? But I like to do random stuff. I think that's the reason why I just love the culture in Europe, where I've said this before. I actually feel so much resonance to the culture in Europe, especially Spain. I've no idea why, don't ask me, but I've always felt so much of connection towards the Spanish culture, and I felt like home when I was there. I felt like I could just be myself. Nobody judge. Nobody cares. If I were to do the same thing, the kind of things I do when I'm in Europe, if I were to do in like where I am right now in Malaysia, I'll be like the weird, awkward one. Like people would just think I'm crazy, and I will not be accepted. I'll be judged. I'll be God knows what. So yeah.
Yeah, I do understand you at some level. I've never been to Malaysia, so only at some level. I also have a strong connection with Spain, by the way. I love Spain. They are so awesome as people. I personally live in Italy, so half
Is
of my
that why
life.
you moved there? Is that why you moved to Italy?
No, I moved when I was 14, so I didn't actually have a word in the conversation. But here in Italy, you do have more personal, personality freedom in comparison to Estonia. I also have like tunnels, I'm physically different for them. So sometimes when I go back to Estonia, they're a little bit closed, as you said, a little bit, on their bubble, not telling you anything actually, but I don't know. They just observe me.
No, actually, you really remind me of a friend I met last year when I was in Estonia. So we are the same mastermind group. Um, yeah, so we're in the same mastermind group. We meet every week, once a week. But she's Estonian, but she stays in Luxembourg. And when she goes back to Estonia for like holidays, or like I think recently she went back there for her friend's wedding. And during our calls, she was like, so I'm going back to Estonia. I feel weird. It feels awkward to go back. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I love being there. And she feels so I get it when you say like, and I find that with many people, like especially they don't feel connected to their roots, but they feel much more connected to some other culture. So I don't know, maybe it's a past life thing. I was told that I have some sort of Celtic past life connection. That's why I am very much in tune with the Spanish culture because I have some sort of Celtic past life stuff. I have no idea. Yeah.
Oh, that's curious.
Yeah. This guy who did intuitive massage on me when I was talking to him. And I also told him that I'm not sure if you heard of this before, the Camino de Santiago walk in Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was telling him about the walk and how I feel very called to do the walk. I was supposed to do it next month actually, but I'm doing it next year after Q2 because winter's coming close and I wasn't able to make it next month. Yeah, so I'm going to do the walk next year. So I was telling him about it, and then he said, that's the reason why, because he had a download that came to him. But as I was talking, he said, I kind of saw a Celtic image, which could be from your past life. That's why you are very much connected to the Spanish culture. Yeah. So that's very interesting.
But the moments where we do feel observed and out of place, maybe are the moments where we can actually put in practice self-trust, just be ourselves. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked about authenticity earlier on, right? To just be ourselves. So it's something that I'm learning. I'm learning. Not easy, but yeah.
Wow, Camino de Santiago.
You should check it out. Since you said that,
Calling.
since you said that you have a strong connection with Spain as well, you should check it out. There's a Facebook group that I kind of follow about the Camino. So people who walk the Camino, and they post. There's also a movie called The Way. So that was a good movie. I watched that about this father walking the Camino de Santiago, on behalf of his son who passed away. So that was really good. Yeah. Um, just a quick one for those who want to learn more about what you do. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and TikTok. It's Grete Merlyn, so my name, on both. I'm also on other social medias, but I don't use them so often.
Okay.
And I also do workshops. So I do free workshops. Next one will be on 21st of this month. So no, next month, 21st of September, about crafting our own personal positive affirmations. So working around I am enough. But yeah,
Nice.
I do different types of workshops. So just following me along there or there.
Okay, cool. Last question. What would if someone is really interested in human design and want to start this journey, what is your advice on that? How can they start?
Well, there are free human design chart applications that help you calculate it. It very much depends on your profile. There is 1-3, for example, who just want to learn everything in detail about themselves by themselves usually. But yeah, the easiest way is to actually have a reading, because if you have a personal, interest, just some questions, if you want to do it for your business, if you want to do it for your relationships, it's so different. And the information is so overwhelming because there's so many different sources. But yeah, the first step is to just do the chart, to familiarize with who you are. There are some YouTube videos that maybe can help you understand more about your design, your type, your profile, that can already start to say something. But yeah, so reading would be my advice, to have like this quick type of knowing, okay, this is who I am in human design. Otherwise, it can be years of studying. So
Yeah, I so agree on that. Like having someone to debrief for you to explain, it really, really helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you want to use it for a tool, maybe you're a coach, maybe you want to start doing your own human design readings, then absolutely go for it. Study. Absolutely. You can find lots of information online. There are books, there is information.
Cool. So thank you so much, Grete. Aita, right? For being on this show and sharing your experiences. I enjoyed today's conversation, and definitely I learned a lot. So now it's about processing those information and applying it. So thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice. Yeah.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you for joining us on this soul-enriching episode of Spatial Sarah, the podcast that brings back the beauty of meaningful conversations. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I invite you to carry the inspiration from these campfire-worthy conversations into your daily life. Embrace the power of connection, open your mind to new ideas, and continue exploring the depths of our own thoughts. Share this episode with someone you know will benefit. Follow and tag me on Instagram at @IamSarahSammy, #CampfireWorthyConvo. Until next episode, keep dreaming, keep connecting, and keep embracing the magic of meaningful conversations. Signing off, your spatial buddy, Sarah.